Hi, this is Gene Peary here at Century Farm Equestrian Center again. And we've been doing these Tuesday discussions and talking about tutorials on how you handle horses and what have you. But I quite often get asked about what other things I've done in my life, and I've had kind of an interesting career. I was a combat pilot in Vietnam, flew there in 67, 68, and after the war, as a helicopter pilot, I became an international bush pilot. I flew helicopters in East Africa for a few years for a British company, then went up and worked with a Canadian outfit on a wildlife survey. In fact, the largest wildlife survey ever done in the Canadian Arctic. And I was privileged to work with some of the top specialists, including a scientist, Dr. Sterling. Dr. Sterling was working on a study of polar bears, and so they asked me to go out and help them track down and dart and drug polar bears, so they could do some studies with them. And that was quite interesting. That was quite an operation. The polar bears will come and will ride the polar pack as it melts in the spring. They move back north again, and then in the fall, as winter sets in, the ice starts forming. They come back down. We had gone out to a place called Banks Island, and just getting there, that was quite an adventure in itself on there. But we'd gotten there, and we were working with the polar bears, and it was fun. A polar bear will run a straight line, just like bulldog, and you get up beside them, and they'll just continue to go along, and they'll do about 35 miles an hour. These guys can move, and they're really after something or running away. And we would have to bring the helicopter down, and we would bring it right down behind the polar bear, and I'd have to turn it about a 45-degree angle, which is kind of hard to do with an old chopper, and you get it tilted over there. And Dr. Sterling, we'd spot a bear and go over, and he'd look at it and make it run just a little bit, and then pull away from it, and it would slow right down, go back to walking. And he was looking to see if the bear's hind legs would move forward. If they did, then it was a smaller, lighter weight bear, and if they wobbled from side to side, then he knew that it was over an 800-pound bear, because they're so fat they can't bring those legs forward. And so he'd get an idea of how fat that bear was, how much it weighed, and then he'd climb in the back seat behind me and load up the right amount of drug. And we would then come up behind the bear again and drop down. And we literally had to bump the bottom of the bear with the right skid, or very close to it, so that he could put the dart in there, and that's what we would do. And so we got this one particular bear that had just made a kill on a seal, and this bear thought, well, here these interlopers they were going to eat its seal, and it was running around in circles, and it was trying to, I've got to get away, and I'm going to try to lead. No, that's not working. All around and around and around. And finally, the bear was just so frustrated and knew we wanted to eat that seal that it ran around, and finally it came over and it sat down on top of the seal, sat up, looking off into space, crossed its paw. I have no idea. There's no seals around here. And I just looked around, and we swung around, brought the helicopter down, and we're looking at it. And it just finally, you could see it look us in the eye and say, "Oh, rats." And so it ambled on off, because we had to move it away from open water, because the way the drugs worked on the animals, it hit the voluntary muscles, and if a bear got in water, then it couldn't swim. So we did. We dropped down. The bear finally got up, and it shuffled on. It got far enough away that Dr. Sterling could dart it, and we could get down and work with it. I have some wonderful footage of 16 millimeter footage. National Geographic guy was filming some of it, and it looks like I'm wrestling this polar bear. I've got it up, and I got it in my arms, and I'm and it looks great on film. Well, all we were trying to do in reality was roll the bear over so they could do some other work on it. But it looks really pretty impressive with what we did with that poor old polar bear. And they did a lot of good studies on that. All right, next week we may talk about elephants and how you can tell if an elephant is bluffing. That's it for this week. Take care and have a good one. Bye-bye.